My new housekeeper was a living furnace pressed against my back when I woke up, and what she did next is not what you think. My eyes shot open. The first thing I registered was the heat. A deep, radiating warmth that had nothing to do with my pathetic electric blanket. The second was the weight. A dead weight draped over me, pinning me to the mattress. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum solo in the silent apartment. Panic, cold and sharp, sliced through the fog of sleep. I twisted my neck, the muscles screaming in protest, and saw it. Skin the color of a twilight sky. A deep, impossible lavender, smooth as polished stone. A hand, elegant and long-fingered, rested on my chest, just over my heart. My gaze traveled up a slender arm to a shoulder, and then to a face. She was beautiful, in a way that shattered every human definition of the word. No hair, just a delicate, iridescent crest that started at her brow and swept back over her skull, shimmering faintly in the slivers of dawn piercing my blinds. And she was utterly, completely naked, my new housekeeper, Lyra. What the actual hell, I mouthed, the words a silent prayer to any god that might be listening. My body, that traitorous lump of flesh, decided this was the perfect moment to react, a flush of heat that had nothing to do with fear crawling up my neck. My slight movement was enough. Her eyes, two enormous pools of liquid sapphire, fluttered open. For a full 10 seconds, we just stared. Me, a cornered animal. Her, a startled deity. Then, with a grace that defied the sheer awkwardness of the situation, she flowed off me, not scrambled, but flowed, like water pouring from a glass. She sat on the edge of the bed, her back to me, seemingly unconcerned by her lack of attire. "My deepest apologies, Employer Scott," she said. Her voice was like wind chimes and honey, a melody that vibrated right through my bones. "I have committed a significant cultural misstep. I should have been more thorough in my explanation of Xylotian customs." I yanked the sheet up to my chin, my mind a frantic scramble of HR violations and interstellar incidents. "Lyra," I managed, my voice a croak. "You're going to need to give me the explanation of a lifetime right now." "Of course," she said, finally turning to face me. Her sapphire eyes were wide with what looked like genuine academic curiosity. "My people, the Xylotians, are a thermophilic species. We evolved on a world with a variable star. To conserve metabolic energy during the cool cycles, we practice communal heat sharing. It is a biological imperative, as instinctual to us as breathing." She paused, her iridescent crest flushing a shade of deep violet. "After completing my nocturnal sanitation duties, I registered your thermal output. It was remarkably inefficient. You were leaking heat into the empty space of your bed. My instincts to correct this inefficiency were overwhelming." I just stared at her, my brain trying to process the phrase nocturnal sanitation duties while also dealing with the very naked, very alien woman sitting on my bed. "You think?" I finally choked out, running a hand through my hair. I forced myself to look at her face, which was a monumental effort of will. "Lyra, on Earth, when you wake up naked with someone in your bed, it usually implies something else entirely." Her head tilted, a gesture of pure, unadulterated curiosity. "Something else? You refer to procreative rituals?" Her eyes widened slightly as the pieces clicked into place. "Ah, fascinating. So humans combine thermal regulation with reproduction. A very efficient use of energy, I must admit. On Xylos, those are two very distinct and separate activities, governed by entirely different biological and social protocols. This was purely for warmth, I assure you." She smiled, a small, genuine curve of her lips. "Though I must say, your species generates an extraordinary amount of thermal energy. It's quite intoxicating." I felt my face ignite. "Jesus, Lyra, we need to set some ground rules. Boundaries." "Boundaries," she repeated, tasting the word. "An interesting concept. A demarcation of personal space. Yes, I can add this to my cultural adaptation matrix. She gracefully stood and retrieved her uniform from where it was folded perfectly on my desk chair. As she dressed, I couldn't help but watch the fluid, precise movements. I'd hired her through the Star-Maid agency because I was an astrophysicist working 80 hours a week, and my apartment looked like a black hole had spat it out. Her file said highly efficient, adaptable, and eager to learn about human culture. It had failed to mention the instinctual body snuggling. Perhaps, she suggested, now fully dressed and looking like the model of professionalism, we could discuss these boundaries over the morning nutritional cycle. I have synthesized what your culture calls oatmeal, and I have a list of 27 questions regarding human social anxieties I would like to address. I just fell back onto the pillows, staring at the ceiling. Oatmeal sounds fine, I sighed. But rule number 1 is non-negotiable. Clothing is mandatory. At all times. For both of us. Noted, Lyra said, her voice laced with a playful lilt. She paused at the door. And employer Scott? Despite the cultural misunderstanding, I hope this does not create what your files refer to as awkwardness between us. I let out a short, sharp laugh. No more awkward than finding my alien housekeeper using me as a human space heater. And please, call me Scott. I think we're way past formalities. Lyra's crest rippled with what I was beginning to recognize as pleasure. Scott, she said, testing the name. Very well, though I should provide a warning. On my world, the sharing of warmth is the first step in the formation of a significant emotional bond. You may find my instinct to correct your thermal inefficiency grows stronger. Before I could even begin to unpack the terrifying implications of that statement, she slipped out the door, leaving me alone with the lingering warmth where her body had been pressed against mine. Oh, you have got to be kidding me, I muttered to the empty room. What in the actual galaxy have I gotten myself into? The next few weeks were a masterclass in crossed wires and cultural whiplash. Living with Lyra was like trying to explain poetry to a supercomputer. She was logical, literal, and utterly baffled by human behavior. The boundaries I tried so hard to establish were to her merely inefficient data points to be analyzed and questioned. One evening, I walked into my home office to find her holding my worn-out university hoodie, a look of intense concentration on her face. Scott, she said, her voice serious, I have analyzed the emotional resonance of your garments. This one contains high concentrations of nostalgia, academic stress, and trace amounts of a lipid-based substance you call pizza grease. Why do you retain it when it is structurally compromised? Before I could answer, she brought the hoodie to her face and inhaled deeply. The pheromonal signature is also quite potent. Is this a mating display? I snatched the hoodie from her grasp, my face burning. No! It's not a mating display, it's just comfortable. And we don't analyze the emotional resonance of garments, we just wear them. Fascinating, she mused, her crest shimmering. To expend energy weaving emotional data into textiles, yet to remain consciously unaware of it. Humans are wonderfully contradictory. Another time she joined me in the shower. I was shampooing my hair, lost in thought about a collapsing star nebula, when the glass door slid open and she stepped in, holding a sanitation tool. I yelped, nearly slipping on the wet tile. Lyra, what are you doing? I am engaging in water conservation protocols, she stated calmly, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Your shower runs for an average of 8.7 minutes. By combining our hygiene cycles, we can reduce planetary water consumption by a factor of 1.4. It is simply more efficient. It is simply not happening, I sputtered, trying to shield myself with a loofah. She just tilted her head, her sapphire eyes scanning me with scientific detachment. Your heart rate is elevated and your skin is flushing. A classic human stress response. Yet my empathic senses detect no genuine fear, only Another emotion, confusion, and stimulation. Is this another instance of combining a mundane activity with procreative signaling? I finally managed to shepherd her out of the bathroom, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The thing was, she was right. Beneath my constant state of flustered panic, something else was stirring, a strange, unnerving fascination. The turning point came on a Tuesday. I'd received word that my grant proposal for a new deep space telescope array had been rejected. It was a project I'd poured 2 years of my life into. I was gutted. I came home, skipped dinner, and just sat in my darkened living room, staring at the wall, the silence of the apartment pressing in on me. I heard Lyra enter the room, her footsteps silent. I expected her to ask me to quantify my emotional state or attempt to clean the dust bunnies of my despair. Instead, she did something unexpected. She sat on the floor a few feet away from my chair, and she began to hum. It wasn't a melody, not really. It was a low, resonant thrumming sound that seemed to vibrate in the air, in the floor, right up into my bones. It was the sound of distant nebulae, of ancient stars being born. She didn't speak. She didn't touch me. She just sat there humming this impossible cosmic lullaby. Slowly, glacially, the tight knot of failure in my chest began to loosen. The humming was a balm, a strange alien comfort that asked for nothing in return. After what felt like an hour, she stopped. I finally looked at her. Her crest was glowing softly in the dark. "That was a Xylotian comforting," she said softly. "When a member of the collective is experiencing a dissonance of the spirit, we share our resonant frequency to help them find harmony again." I swallowed, the lump in my throat suddenly painful. "Thank you," I whispered. "It helped." She moved closer then, sitting at my feet. "Scott," she said, her sapphire eyes searching my face. "Your people build such high walls, these boundaries. I am beginning to understand. They are not to keep others out. They are to protect the vast, chaotic, and beautiful dissonance within." She reached out, her long, elegant fingers hesitating for a moment before gently touching my hand. Her skin was warm, vibrant. "I do not wish to breach your walls," she said, "but I would like to be invited in." In that moment, staring into her otherworldly eyes, I realized I was tired of being alone inside my walls. I was tired of my efficient, sterile, lonely life. I turned my hand over and laced my fingers with hers. The static shock of her touch was electric, a supernova igniting in the quiet darkness of my living room. "The door's been unlocked for a while now," I admitted, my voice rough. "I think I was just waiting for someone who spoke the right language to knock." Our relationship bloomed in a strange and wonderful fusion of cultures. I tried to introduce her to human dating. I took her to a movie, an epic sci-fi blockbuster. She spent the entire time providing a running commentary on the film's violations of basic physics. "The structural integrity of that starship's hull could never withstand that asteroid field," she'd whisper loudly, earning us a shower of popcorn from the row behind. "And their method of faster-than-light travel is laughably inefficient." In return, she showed me the courtship rituals of her people. One night, she led me to the roof of my apartment building. She laid on her back, and the iridescent crest on her head began to glow, the patterns shifting and swirling. Then points of light appeared on her lavender skin, constellations I had never seen, burning with a soft, internal light. "This is the sky of my homeworld," she whispered, her voice filled with a celestial homesickness. "This is the view from my family's dwelling. It is a tradition to share one's sky with a potential mate. It is how we show them where we come from, who we are." I lay beside her, our hands clasped together, and watched the alien stars dance across her skin, more beautiful than any nebula I had ever seen through a telescope. Our first kiss was clumsy and awkward and perfect. She analyzed the exchange of saliva as a fascinating biomechanical process, but the way her crest glowed with a brilliant pulsing light told me a different story. And when we finally made love, it wasn't a matter of thermal inefficiency or procreative ritual. It was a conscious, deliberate collision of two worlds, two lonely souls finding a shared orbit. It was a silent conversation, a perfect harmony. A few weeks later, I woke up to find Lyra sitting cross-legged on the bed, staring at her own abdomen with an expression of intense, focused curiosity. "Good morning," I said, stretching. "What's got your attention so early?" "Good morning, Scott," she replied, her voice calm but with an undercurrent I couldn't quite place. "My internal biological sensors have just completed their morning diagnostic. There appears to be a new development." She looked up at me, her sapphire eyes wide and luminous. "I am gestating." I sat bolt upright. You're pregnant?" "That is the human term, yes," she confirmed. "My body has detected the successful merging of our genetic material. A new life form has been initiated." I stared at her, my mind a blank slate. Pregnant. We were having a baby, an alien baby. Before I could even formulate a single coherent thought, she continued. "However, there is a complication. Xylotian gestation is symbiotic. To properly form, the fetus requires proximity to a specific geofloral organism from our homeworld, the Cathar bloom. Without its unique energy signature, the gestation will fail." The word hung in the air between us, heavy and cold. "Okay," I said, my mind finally kicking into gear. "Okay, so we get one. Can we order it on the galactic internet? Do we have to go to Xylos?" A chime from the living room interrupted us, the telltale sound of a long-range communication request. Lyra's crest flickered with alarm. "That is the resonance of a Xylotian High Council vessel," she whispered. "That is my parents." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing two Xylosians who shared Lyra's elegance but possessed an aura of ancient authority. The male's crest was a regal, deep indigo. The female's a shimmering silver. "Daughter," the female said, her voice like cracking ice. "Our family's genetic sensor net has registered a cross-species conception. We have brought the Cathar bloom. We are docking with your planet's orbital station in one cycle." "Mother, father," Lyra said, her voice tight. "This is a surprise." "The surprise," her father interjected, his gaze falling on me, cold and analytical, "is your choice of genetic partner. This human. The bloom will sustain the child, but our traditions must be honored. He must prove his worth." I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. "Prove my worth? How?" Lyra's mother gave a thin, regal smile. "The trial of cultivation, of course. Any non-Xylotian who wishes to join our bloodline must demonstrate their ability to nurture new life. The Cathar bloom is notoriously difficult. You will be its caretaker. If it thrives, you are worthy. If it withers..." She left the alternative unspoken, but her meaning was crystal clear. Her father leaned forward, his indigo crest seeming to darken the room. "The fate of my grandchild now rests in your clumsy, primitive hands, human. Do not fail." The transmission ended, leaving a deafening silence. Lyra rushed to my side, taking my hands. "Scott, my love, do not listen to their tone. It is just formality." "Formality?" I squeaked. "They basically said if I kill a houseplant, our baby dies." "I can't even keep a cactus alive, Lyra!" "You will not be alone," she said, placing my hand on her still flat stomach. "We will do this together. It is not a trial of botany. It is a trial of connection, a test of our harmony." I looked from her terrified, beautiful face to where my hand rested, and I could almost feel it. A tiny, impossibly precious spark of life. My fear was still there, a cold, hard knot in my gut. But beneath it, something else was taking root. A fierce, powerful determination. I was an astrophysicist. I studied the birth of stars, tending to one little plant to save my own tiny, nascent universe. I had to try. The Cathar bloom arrived in a stasis pod that looked more advanced than my entire apartment. It was not what I expected. It was a single, crystalline bulb, pulsating with a soft internal light. Lyra's parents, Theon and Alara, observed with imperious silence as I set up the designated growth chamber in my office, their presence making the room feel small and airless. The instructions translated from Xylotian were less than helpful. The bloom requires a resonant harmony. It thrives on emotional stability and empathic connection. It withers in the presence of spiritual dissonance. What does that even mean? I muttered, adjusting the atmospheric controls. It means, Alara said sharply from the doorway, that the plant feeds on the quality of your spirit. A weak spirit, a chaotic heart, these are poison to it. The first few days were a nightmare. The bulb remained dormant, its light dim. I tried everything my human knowledge could offer, adjusting the light spectrum, tweaking the humidity, analyzing the soil composition. Nothing. Theon would stand in the doorway for hours, his arms crossed, his indigo crest radiating disapproval. The light dims further, he would announce before sweeping away. My frustration grew into a gnawing panic. I wasn't sleeping. I was snapping at Lyra, the stress creating the very spiritual dissonance I was supposed to avoid. I was failing. One night, after another day of no progress, I slumped into the chair in front of the chamber, utterly defeated. I can't do this, Lyra, I whispered, burying my face in my hands. They're right. I'm not worthy. I'm just a clumsy human. Lyra knelt beside me, her hand a warm weight on my back. She didn't offer empty platitudes. Instead, she began to hum. It was the same cosmic lullaby she had used before, the sound of resonant harmony that had calmed my soul. Your methods are human, my love, she murmured, her voice vibrating with the hum. You are trying to solve this with logic, with data. The Cathar does not speak in numbers. It speaks in feelings. She placed my hand on the glass of the growth chamber. Let it hear you, she said. Let it hear us. I closed my eyes, exhausted and desperate enough to try anything. I stopped thinking about humidity and soil pH. I thought about Lyra. I thought about the first time I saw her, the shock and the fear and the undeniable spark of wonder. I thought about her humming in the dark, her star maps on the roof, the way her crest shimmered when she laughed. I poured all of it out, not in words but in feeling, love, hope, a fierce, desperate desire to protect the family we were trying to build. Lyra joined me, her mind connecting with mine through the bond that had grown between us. We projected our shared history, our hopes for the future, our love for the tiny unborn child that connected us. And then I felt it. A faint pulse from the bulb, a flicker of light in response. It's working, I breathed. From that moment on, everything changed. My work became a ritual. I would sit with the bloom for hours, not as a scientist, but as a father-to-be. I'd tell it about Earth, about baseball and jazz music and the smell of rain on hot pavement. Lyra would join me, sharing stories of Xylos, of star sailing and crystal cities. We weren't just nurturing a plant. We were building the cultural foundation for our child, weaving our two worlds together into a single harmonious story. The bulb began to glow brighter. A single green shoot emerged, unfurling with impossible speed. Theon and Alara's visits became more frequent, their expressions shifting from cold disdain to grudging respect. One afternoon, Theon entered as I was adjusting a nutrient drip, a piece of human ingenuity I'd added to the system. Your methods are unorthodox, he said, his voice less harsh than usual. But the bloom has not been this vibrant in generations. He's not just growing a plant, Lyra said, coming to stand beside me, her hand resting on her now noticeably swollen belly. He's building a home. He is showing our son that two worlds can become one. The day the bloom finally opened was transcendent. Its crystalline petals unfolded to reveal a heart of pure white light, flooding the room with a warm, life-giving energy. The chamber was filled with a soft, melodious chiming. Lyra stood in the doorway, her silver crest shimmering, and for the first time, I saw tears in her impossibly ancient eyes. "He has passed the trial," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "He is worthy." Later that night, as we lay in bed, the light from the bloom casting soft shadows on the wall, Lyra gasped, her body tensing. "My love," she said, her voice a mixture of awe and urgency, "I believe the final phase of gestation has been initiated. The baby is coming." The birth was nothing like I'd seen in movies. It was a symphony of light and sound. The energy from the Cathar bloom filled the room, supporting Lyra, connecting all of us. Theon and Lyra were there, not as judges, but as grandparents, their hands glowing as they channeled their own energy, their resonant humming joining with mine. And as our son entered the world, he did not cry. He chimed, a single, perfect note that harmonized with the bloom. He was a perfect, impossible blend of us both. He had my nose and my hairline, but his skin was the palest shade of lilac, and atop his head was a small, downy crest that shimmered with a faint, silvery light. Theon took the baby from the medical droid, his stern face broken by a look of pure wonder. He cradled him gently before placing him in my arms. "Welcome to the family, Scott of Earth," he said, his voice thick with an emotion I now recognized as love. "You have proven that worthiness is not a matter of bloodline, but of the heart's capacity to nurture." I looked down at my son, my beautiful alien human son, and then at Lyra, exhausted but radiant, her sapphire eyes shining with love. Our little family, born from a cultural misunderstanding, nurtured by a cosmic houseplant, and bound by a love that crossed galaxies. I thought back to that first morning, to the panic and the confusion. And I realized that my life hadn't started when I was born on Earth. It had started the day I woke up with a Xylotian using me as a space heater. My life began when she invited me into a universe bigger and more beautiful than I could have ever imagined. What do you think we should name him? I'm torn between a classic human name and a traditional Xylotian one. Let me know your suggestions in the comments below. And if you want to see what happens when a human tries to baby-proof an apartment for a telepathic lavender-skinned infant, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss the next chapter in our unbelievable story. Thanks for watching.